All right, so it's important to notice that that nominal annual interest rate that you're given, that you're going to use in the compound interest formula calculation is not the same as the growth rate that we've seen previously. All right, and that's why I changed it to I instead of R. Okay, in your book, if you look at the book, they use R for the interest rate, but that R is not the same as the growth rate. So sometimes you want to know the growth rate, and there's another name for the growth rate. The growth rate is the same as the effective annual interest rate. Okay, so that I value doesn't actually really tell you the growth rate of your money. It's a nominal annual interest rate, and we use it in the compound interest formula. But we sometimes would like to know what is the effective annual rate, or what is the actual annual growth rate of the money in that account. So to find the actual value of the growth rate, which is the effective annual rate, we can rearrange either one of these formulas. I'm going to start with the compound interest formula. This is the same formula. We usually write n times t, but I can write it as a power to a power, right? And then you can see that this is b, right? This is b. So I've pulled out b, and we know that b is equal to 1 plus r, right? And so if we want the growth factor, we have to calculate b, and then we can subtract 1 and get r. The same way with the continuously compounded interest. I can rewrite it, right? I can take that I times t and write a power to a power, and then our b, which is right here, this is b. This is our growth factor, and is just e to the I. All right, and this is again 1 plus r. All right, and that's r. This r value right here is the growth rate, and it's also the same as the effective interest rate. All right, so let me scroll down here. So it's the effective interest rate. So that's what it's another name for the effective interest rate, but it's just the growth rate. It's just the growth rate that we've calculated in the past. All right, so this is another name for it is the effective annual. Actually, let me put it down here. Annual interest rate. Okay, it's just the growth rate that we've seen before. All right, so if we can rewrite the formula in the form a b to the t, right? So this is a, this is b, and here's our t, right? And so if we write it in that form, then we can find the growth factor, and from that we can get the growth rate. Same way down here. The p, that's our initial amount, so that's our a, and then b is e to the I, and of course this is t. Okay. All right. So now there's a couple formulas here, but I just recognize, if you recognize that the effective interest rate is just the growth rate that we were dealing with in the past, right? Then it's not too bad. So I honestly wouldn't bother memorizing these formulas. I would just remember what effective annual rate is. It is the growth rate. It's the growth rate. All right, so let's see how we can figure this out. I am actually not going to use these formulas. I'm gonna find the growth factor, and from that I can just subtract 1 and find the growth rate, which is the same as the effective annual interest rate. So I'm just gonna scroll those off the screen so we can think about this. All right, so if we let's see, we want to know the effective annual interest rate for an account paying a nominal annual interest rate of 4% per year. All right, so remember that we would normally have P is equal to, not P, hang on, whoops, all right. We normally have A is equal to P, and then 1 plus I over N to the NT, right? NT, but I'm going to actually pull out the T. This is our B, This is our B value. All right. So B is equal to 1 plus 0.04 over 1, because I'm compounding annually, so just one time a year, and then n is 1. All right. So all of this, I should write it in a different color, right? This whole thing in here is B, and okay, this is B. All right, I don't know if that was helpful or not, but we can calculate B, and I can find out that I get 1.04, which is kind of makes sense because we just have an annual, we're only compounding annually. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that R is B minus 1. If I subtract 1 from that, I get R is equal to 0.04, or 4%. Okay, so the other way to think about the effective interest rate is it's equivalent to the interest rate you would have gotten if it had been compounded annually. All right, so so this was not too interesting because this is just compounded annually. All right, so let's look at the next one. Again, I'm just going to pull out B, which is the stuff in red, and so I have 1 plus 0.04. Now we're compounding monthly, so I'm going to divide by 12 and take it to the 12th power. All right, this is going to be my B value. And if I calculate that out, I get 1.0407, and I think there's some more decimals, but I just rounded it. And so if I subtract 1, I get R. This is the growth rate, which is the same as the effective annual rate. So R is equal to 0.0407, or you could write it as a percent, 4.07%. That's the effective annual rate. It's just the growth rate. All right, let's look at compounded continuously. So now our B, let me write out its P e to the I t, right? But I'm going to pull out the t, right? This is A is equal to that. All right, so B is e to the I. So it's just going to be e to the 0.04. Okay, now you can put that into your calculator. You'll have to find the button for e to the x on your calculator. If you need any assistance, let me know. I can help you find it. But I just put e to the 0.04, and I get 1.0408 this time. So to get R, I just subtract 1, right? This is the effective annual interest rate. Subtract 1 from the B value, the growth factor. And I get 0.0408, or I could write it as 4.08%. Okay? So that's effective annual interest rate. I would not bother with the formulas. Just remember that the effective annual interest rate is the same as the growth rate. All right, so find B and subtract 1. Right, it's the annual growth rate if the initial deposit were compounded annually. So it's equivalent to what the growth rate would have been if it was compounded annually. All right, got one more example. I'll meet you in the next video.